that's right outside the Cowboys headquarters. I was just there the other day and almost thought about taking another picture, but there's clouds. It was clear blue like that was.
Huh. Cool. Did you happen to hear whose combine that was south of Ellis or not?
No, I can. Fire?
Somebody's combine burnt off this afternoon. There was one over by Russell too. That was about 3 o'clock. Probably Colby got paged, but he was with me, so he missed out on that one. Then they did a second page because nobody responded at Gorham. Everybody was working.
Are you ready, Dean?
Yeah, whenever you
Okay.
are.
The Ellis County, Kansas Public Building Commission meeting will now come to order. Bobby, please note that all board members are present. Any changes to the agenda? Don't think so. Okay. Approval of prior minutes. Did you get a chance to read the April 12th minutes?
Good as always.
Okay. They will stand as submitted. And consideration of accounts payable. Darren?
Darren Myers, project manager. We do not have any accounts payable at this time.
Okay. Is there a project manager report?
A couple different things we're still working on. I spoke to our architect this morning in regards to the roof design for the law enforcement center. They're almost in final stages of that to get us preliminary architectural drawings for that. So they're wrapping up on that. They just apologize for taking a little bit longer than they anticipated. They've just been super busy. It's not necessarily in regards to the PBC, but another project that's coming up that the commission is aware of is the parking lot repairs outside. Hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have that out to bid, so that way we can get some information on that. Back to the courthouse building, the contractors, commercial builders finished up the entryway into the judge's chambers. They cut the stone and rock out into, I believe it's now Judge Drees' office, I believe, but they got that cut in, finalized, and that payment has been submitted and paid. So that's kind of a quick overview on all the projects at this point.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
I have none.
Okay, the Public Building Commission meeting will adjourn at 5:02. Okay, the Ellis County Board of Commissioners meeting will now come to order. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bobby, could you call the roll?
Commissioner Dean Hazelworth,
Present.
Chair Butch Schreier,
Present.
Commissioner Neil Youngberg.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Any changes to the order of business, Commissioners?
I have none.
Okay. Prior minutes, July 6th, did you get a chance to review those? Okay.
Looks good.
Okay. Prior minutes then will be approved as submitted. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through G.
I'll second that motion. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Are there any issues from persons not on the order of business? Doesn't appear to be. Monthly financial reports. Did you get a chance to review the financial reports?
Yes.
Questions, concerns, comments?
Looks good.
Okay. And then our first agenda item will be the city dump cleanup and repair program. Darren.
Good evening, Commissioner. Darren Myers, County Administrator. Tonight, Kevin Height with KDHE is here to kind of describe to us the process of the city dump and cleanup program that KDHE offers. There's a piece of property that Kevin will explain just here in a bit that was identified as a potential candidate to have the site cleaned up. It's on personal property. And I guess with that, I'll just let Kevin explain the process and see if the commission is interested in proceeding.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Height. I work for the Kansas Department of Health and Environment out of the Topeka office, and I manage the Old City Dump program. Old City Dump is a municipal dump that was operated prior to 1975, prior to permitting regulations, and we have over 800 of them in record that we know of across the state. Occasionally 1, 2, 3, 4 is found per year. This particular site, which is southwest of the current Ellis County transfer station operation on a Dingus family property, was discovered by one of our staff members who was out doing some water monitoring. So I went out and looked at the site. It's been over a year ago, and surveyed the site and have spoken with the landowner. At that time, my budget had been expended for the year, so I kind of waited. With COVID, it kind of delayed things even further. But what I would like to, how the program works is we have to have, by statute, we have to have a municipality partner with us. We ask that municipality to administer the contract, solicit for bids. Once, if the municipality agrees to do that, once bids have been collected and when it's been selected, I write a contract between the municipality and the Secretary of Health, KDHE. Once that contract has been approved, we pay 50% of the cost up front, and then as the project moves along, there are some steps where I can pay like another quarter, or, you know, what I like to do is pay 50% up front and pay 50% at the end of it. So it's no cost to the municipality. It does take some of your staff time, but we can build that into the work plan, and that can be paid as well from KDHE. And the paper that I gave Darren earlier that he passed out kind of outlines a rough outline of what we look to do when we come onto one of these projects. We would like to try to recycle as much materials as we can. If there's a significant amount of material or money's recovered from that, we put that back towards the cost. If it's a few $100, maybe $1,000, we don't worry about it. But this particular site, I don't know if you'd shared photographs that I'd sent of anything. Okay. It is a lot of scrap metals, so there would be a large majority of material that could be recycled. Once that has been taken away, any remaining materials, biodegradable things, plastics, glass, they get covered with a minimum of 18 inches. We prefer 24 inches. At least the top 6 inches need to be some say topsoil, but a soil that is conducive to growing natural grasses. On that paper, it talks about where the site could be mowed. Since this is on private property, that would not be a concern. We would not ask the municipality to do anything further with it, but we would go look at the site. KDHE as a whole would go look at the site approximately every 5 years. The history of the site from the Dingus, Daryl Dingus, the individual I spoke to, he could remember back when his grandparents would allow people from all around the community to come out there and dump waste. And that kind of fits right into our Old City Dump description. Mm-hmm. And so that's the basics of the program. What information would you like further?
Are the property owners wanting this place cleaned up too?
Yes.
Okay.
I already have a signed access agreement from Mr. Dingus.
Okay. From the time a bid would be selected until a contract is made, what's that time frame?
It can be depending on the Secretary of Health and how long I get. Sometimes he's not available to sign on things immediately. Mm-hmm. I've seen as quick as 30 days up to 90 days. Okay. Before his signature gets placed on it. The contract, typically when I write them, I will put a year deadline from the time of signing, from the time of his signature. So we don't try to rush anything. But typically, I would think that for this site, it would probably be an outside contractor. The municipality can do the work themselves if they'd like. But something this size, that's typically not done. So with a contractor, that's why I kind of give them a year, because some of these sites, some are small, some are larger. This one's kind of medium. with their schedule that they've already got set out, maybe it would be something they would need to put off till like fall or winter type work to fill in some spots in their schedules. And we have no problem with that. It's not an issue at all.
Okay. Commissioner Hazelhorst, any questions?
Well, you kind of answered what I was wanting to, so. Yeah.
Commissioner Neal, any questions?
When they're removing this material, what if they find like oils, that kind of stuff? What do they do then?
That has happened twice in the Old City Dump program. At that point, it goes through into our Has Waste group, and they will come in and they will discern and identify what materials they are, assess a cost recovery, and there can be other monies, not from the Old City Dump program, but other monies that KDHE has that can help the remediation to that.
Okay.
It's not something that will fall back on you. That's
Okay.
probably your concern,
That's-
correct?
that was my-
Exactly, exactly.
Concern.
And KDHE does cover the entire cost of the cleanup,
Correct.
okay?
Correct. The brochure that I had passed to Darren or emailed to Darren was made many years ago, and at that time, they kind of did a competitive bid, and they based it off population. A majority of them have been cleaned up that have been identified that needed cleaning up. So now we're down to the point of we really don't need to have competitive bids. We kind of go out and just seek ones and grade them ourselves and go after the top-notch ones that we think need to be done first. And this one, once it was found and investigated, it was like, yeah, this
Okay.
kind of rises to the top.
Okay, Commissioners, discussion?
I think it's a good program. Thank you for coming tonight.
Yeah,
Okay, super.
thank you, Kevin.
I have one other item I'd like to share with you real quick. I'm going
Sure.
to leave this with Darren. It's called the Orphan Tire Program. I manage this program as well. Tires that are dumped on public right-of-ways, road ditches, under bridges, doesn't matter whether it's a city or a county, any municipality, as long as those tires, the responsible party is unknown. When you guys go out, you have your road and bridge guys or maybe sheriff's department, and they pick these up maybe when they see them, or maybe a certain time of year, you kind of patrol out and get them. You take them and dispose of them through your landfill, whoever picks them up, say Champlin Tire or whomever, that's a permitted waste tire handler. You can send me the invoice with the number of tires that were in the load that he picked up, and we will reimburse you the cost of the tires. We will not reimburse the cost of staff time, any other administrative costs, just the cost of the tires. So that is a program. I used to work for a county, and we utilized this all the time that I worked there, and it was a big help. We were a small rural county, and it was a big help, so. And I know from driving many back roads in Kansas, there are tires everywhere. So I'll
Okay.
leave this with Darren, and
Okay, well, I guess we're in agreement. We will proceed with the project.
Yeah,
Okay.
get her done.
Okay?
okay, super.
Thank you.
Well, I will work with Darren within the next few weeks to kind of coordinate some things, and we'll see, get things going.
Okay.
I did visit with Kevin about this before, and since we're looking at maybe a fall start date, is to make sure that when we get the bids out there, to ensure that the contractor can complete the work before the calendar year is up, so that way when we're talking about reimbursements and payments, we don't have to go through two different budget years on that. Because that creates some issues once we get the reimbursements for the payments, 2 separate years.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks. Be in touch.
Okay, the next agenda item is the Planning Commission appointment. Mason?
Evening, Commissioners. Mason Reuter, Environmental Planning Supervisor. What I had before this evening was what we kind of talked about last week at the meeting with the 2 expirations and the reappointment you did last week. We did have somebody submit a citizen interest form to join our Joint Planning Commission, Mr. Keith Guston of Hayes. So he is requesting to fill one of the 2 vacant positions we have for a 3-year term that would expire June 30th of 2024. I did attach the form for you so you could see what he's interested in. I have spoken with him, and he actually has done quite a bit of research on what we're accomplishing right now.
Okay.
Is there any other questions you have for me?
Questions, Commissioners?
No, I have
Okay.
none.
Do we hear a motion for this issue?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to move to appoint Keith Guston to a 3-year term expiring June 30th of 2024 to the Joint Planning Commission.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners. So that will just leave our one final vacant position. For anybody who's interested, they can stop by our office or fill one out in the clerk's office if they'd like.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next agenda item is the Catherine speeding report. Scott?
Good evening, Commissioners. Scott Brown, Ellis County Sheriff. So while I was away, I didn't attend the meeting, but I understand that I was requested to come back and give just a brief summary of what we found. After hearing about it, I had my guys go out and set out there almost on a daily basis, and they are not seeing what was reported. I'm not saying that it hasn't occurred in the past, but it's far and few in between. The speeds that they found coming into Catherine were 35 mile an hour on the Sand Road and 310th. Those are the couple of them that they ran across, but no citations, no traffic stops, and they were out in the area. So not sure who it was. Again, I'm not saying it doesn't occur, but it must be far and few in between. And we'll continue to be out in the area, so maybe we can keep those speeds down for those people out there too. So I don't know if you're aware, you haven't seen them yet, but our guys have been out, guys and gals have been out a lot. In fact, they made 211 traffic stops last month alone. So we are out and about, and maybe that's part of the, we're deterring that speed issue. So maybe that's part of it. So
Yep, they're definitely on the country roads.
we're trying to be. We're trying to be, so.
They're out there.
No question, Scott. Not for me.
I would like to bring up one other thing if I could.
Absolutely.
So just a brief summary. You guys, as you know, we're into our RMS, our new one that you guys all agreed to last year. Well, we started soft code here a couple of weeks ago. And what that is that's the civil process side that the sheriff's office has started. And we are very pleased with how that system works. Just to give you an idea, it used to be our guys would go out and serve a paper. They would write on a blue sheet a note. They would take it back to the office, and then a deputy would come in, and then they would pick up another one, and sometimes we didn't know who had what paper. Now, currently, how it works is we have MDTs in our vehicles, basically. The guys come in, they scan the papers out, we know who they go to. They go try. If they're not there, they click on a box, they type in a little note. When it's served, they click it and show it's served. It goes back to Roberta, our clerk. Our clerk immediately sees it, can print it off at her desk, and then she sends it over to the courts. It is streamlined. Once the courts are on board, that will be electronic. We won't do any paperwork. It's electronically signed and filed. It'll automatically go to the clerks of the courts as soon as we get them, and Roberta looks through, make sure everything's okay. She'll hit a button. It'll go right over there. So it is just really slick. And what a great means of keeping track and tracking how many are served or how many attempts we've had and things of that nature. So super excited about it. So thank you, Commissioners, for buying into the new RMS system for us. It's streamlined it thus far, so I'm excited to see where we're going to go. So thank you.
Hey, Scott.
Have a good day.
Take care now.
You.
You.
So I guess with Catherine, do we want to take any action on Catherine or just let it go?
I think Scott's doing a good job on it. I think we'll just let the sheriff's department see what happens in the future. He can report maybe back in another month or so.
Sure.
That works, Scott?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
Okay, our next agenda item is the Ellis County EMS Recruitment and Retention Strategy.
Jason even looks happy.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jason Kennedy, Ellis County Health Services Director. What you see before you tonight is a problem and a potential solution to a problem at EMS. Darren and I have been working on this for several months now. It is a nationwide trend. It's not isolated to Ellis County, but it is something that we want to fix, we want to get ahead of. And this is part of that strategy for getting ahead of that. The problem that we have is honestly recruitment and retention of qualified personnel. The vast majority of that is in the paramedic rank. Paramedics are in short supply nationwide. It takes 2 2 years to get them through school. It takes another year to make them good. And it takes, it takes a lot to get someone that is highly certified and has the training that we want. It takes a lot to get them out here. We are remote. I love Hayes. It's a great place to live. I'd love to tell all of them it's a great place to live, but we are remote. We have geographical problems. We have a high cost of living. And what we found out through our salary survey is our wages were not competitive with honestly other departments in our geographical area and other departments in the state of Kansas that we're competing with for personnel. One of the departments that we surveyed has directly taken one of our employees. One of our employees left to go work there because he made more money. He still lives in our area and drives there because he makes more money. So we are competing with these people, and we were not competitive. So the plan that you see before you tonight fixes a lot of that. It also builds in some incentives, not only some sign-on bonuses, but some incentives for us to get people to relocate here. So the primary basis of the plan and the primary cost of the plan, if you look at the EMS recruitment and retention strategy plan that's on the 3rd page, is to increase the base hourly pay. That increase in pay would be basically would correspond with your level of certification. 1% for EMTs, 1.5% for AMTs, and 3.5% medics. Medics would also move up a step. That would give them closer to anywhere from about a 7.5% to a 9% wage increase. It would separate some of that and maybe stratify more that jump from EMT to paramedic to say, hey, it is 2 years of school. It is a significant amount of training. That estimated cost is $117,796 for the first plan. The second plan that you see is a 1% EMT, a 1.5% AMT, and then 3.5% for all medics. Everyone in that step, all of our employees would move one step up. The reason for the step increases is we are removing the first step of our current pay plan. So we're sliding the scale. If we don't increase everyone, then we do introduce some compression back in. The Evergreen study, a lot of the changes you guys have made over the last 5-6 years was to spread that, to get rid of that compression. We have to get rid of step one no matter what. To stay competitive, step one has to go in our current pay scale. If we go with plan B, the compression stays out of it because everyone continues to move up. Step one still goes away. New people come in essentially at step two, but the compression stays out of it. Step one does introduce some compression back into it, but step one is less cost, and it does still fix that necessary need that we have right now of paramedics, recruitment and retention of paramedics. So either plan there honestly helps us with our paramedic plan. The second plan helps keep that compression out of the current pay scale and also puts us into a position where we are number 2 out of the eight departments that we surveyed that we believe we compete with. The 8 departments that we thought are direct competitors of us. They're similar in size, similar in call number, similar in what they pay as far as benefits. It would put us number 2 with pay, either one of those plans. The sign-on bonus would be basically based on your years of service, would be based on whether you're an EMT or a paramedic. That sign-on bonus gives us some latitude to negotiate so that we can maybe, our wage might not quite be as competitive because they've got 10 or 12 years of service, but we can give them an incentive basically to start to say, hey, we know it costs money to move to Ellis County. We know you're gonna have a higher cost of living. We know you're losing a little bit of money. Here, we can help you out here. The third thing is a relocation bonus. It's actually fitting that Doug is here tonight from Grow Hayes. He said, we've talked about this issue with Ellis County. The cost of living here is high. Housing prices are high, rent's competitive, but it is higher than you're going to find in a lot of the more rural areas. This relocation bonus does give us that opportunity to help people and to say, hey, we recognize the issue in Ellis County. We still want you here. This also gives me the ability to bring these people into this community, ties them into the community, gives us better employee retention, makes them invested in the community, and also gives me the opportunity, if we have a callback in the middle of the night, someone that's 2.5 hours away can't make it to that callback for a 15 to 20 minute call. So we want to bring these people into Ellis County. We want them to live here. We want them to be engaged in their communities. We want them to spend their money here. That plan would be, we would give them a small, like $500 up front to say, hey, we know U-Haul costs money. We know moving all your stuff, packing up, driving out here. The rest of it could be paid in a kind of a monthly stipend for either rent or mortgage payments as an offset to what they're going to have to spend in excess to move here. And then the fourth part is the Educational Certification and Employee Grant. It's a long word. Basically, it just says we want to pay for people's education. We want you to come work for us. We want to take you as a good EMT and a great employee, and we want to turn you into a great paramedic. We want to invest money and time into you. We want you to be a part of our department and our community, and we want you to go and get your certification, and we want to be the ones to help you do that. So that would be paid to an individual employee, but it would not, the employee would not get the money directly. It would go to pay their tuition for a college, pay to have a program in our basement. So that money would be a lump sum that would sit there that we can use to pay for their education and make them into paramedics. These 4 steps that you see is what we, or what Darren took to the Wage and Benefit Committee, what we have, what Darren and I have been working on for several months. We believe this is a plan that will help us get to a point of sustainability with employees, to get to a point where not only can we attract good people, but we can make our own. We can take good people, turn them into great employees, great EMTs, great paramedics, and keep them in this service and in this community.
Got a question for you, Jason. Under the educational certification grant, if you were to take a newbie and certify him to be an EMT, what kind of a work commitment would that require on their part?
2 years. So if we pay for education, the contract that Bill and I worked out was a 2-year commitment to pay back. Now that's for the paramedic rank. I haven't really addressed it on the EMT side because my intent right now is to hire people that are EMTs. 2 years is probably going to be a long commitment for 3 months of education. 2 years of payback seemed appropriate when we're paying for 2 years of your education. So it would probably shorten depending on how long we paid for your school. But right now, 2 years, if we pay for your paramedic school, it's a 2-year commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the sign-on bonus. We put a 2-year commitment on it as well. So if we're going to pay you money to come out here, you're going to sign a 2-year commitment that you're going to stay with this department. I did not put a time commitment on the relocation bonus because we are doing it as a monthly stipend. So if you come out here and you just say, hey, it's just not working for me, the relocation bonus stops. So I didn't put a time commitment on that one.
Okay. If you were to pay someone a sign-on bonus, get a commitment, that sort of thing, and it just didn't work out, would it be in a contract that they'd have to repay the bonus? Things like that, or are we just out of money at that point?
I honestly don't know. I wrote this from a point of optimism, so I'm not sure I went down all the wormholes, but I think it's a good conversation. It's something that I'd probably have to talk to Mr. Jeter and figure out what that looks like. I'm not sure what we can or can't do, to tell you the truth.
Because any contract should protect us too.
Sure.
Yeah. Gentlemen, do you have any questions for Jason?
I like option 2. I just think that's gonna, enhance our employee retention and bringing people to Hayes. And I've talked to Jason a little bit about it, and I just think it's a good way to, the citizens of Ellis County voted for the sales taxes, Jason, and I just think it's a good way to promote our healthcare services. And we have an outstanding facility and a great director. We need to promote our employees and keep them here.
We've made a great investment. The commission has made a great investment. I will say our equipment is top notch. Our stations are top notch. The people that we have are top notch. We have not, in my opinion, we have not invested enough into the educational side of this. We have not invested enough money, at least in the last 4 or 5 years. Prior to that, we actually had a really good assistant director that did some of this already, and it worked. She taught some classes in the basement. We haven't had that opportunity since she left. So now we need to really invest in that education. We need to bring them in as basic EMTs, and we need to make them into great paramedics. And I think the real winner in this is that we get our wages competitive. I'll be honest, the sign-on bonuses, the relocation bonus, maybe I'm actually kind of excited to see how that one works. Nationwide sign-on bonuses have not led to a huge improvement in recruitment strategies, but to remain competitive, they're popping up everywhere. Some of the flight services are paying $10,000 to $15,000 sign-on bonuses, plus $1,000 a shift on top of your overtime wages to come and fly one day in liberal Kansas. So we can't match those numbers, but we can say, hey, we're invested enough to say that we can do something. And you talk about financially, the taxpayers, not only did they approve the sales tax, but as Darren put in here, our sales tax projections are actually, or what we're going to actually make is going to be a little higher than what we had projected. We also have $130-some thousand in savings from the VaxCare program that we put in place last commission meeting at the health department. Well, that's sales tax revenue that'll go back. That sales tax revenue now can be used in other places. This seems like a great option for us to use some of that sales tax money that we saved with the VaxCare program.
Commissioner Neal, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I too like the option 2. Like I say, we've got a great facility. And if we do this option 2, what's the possibility of getting the guy that's driving or the employee that's driving back and forth? Maybe we can snag that individual back.
It's going to be my first call when I walk out of here.
Good for you.
Okay, so as I'm hearing the board, you would be in favor of item 1B as opposed to 1A, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay,
Can I add something, Commissioner?
yes.
One thing that I forgot to have Jason add into the motion is one of the attachments is the pay scale, the current as well as the proposed with the changes that Jason has addressed. Jason was basically first talking about the beginning salary is getting competitive on starting salary, but we also found that it was worse on the top end of the scale. So we did some work and some different options on how to extend that scale out from 14 steps to 20 steps, and that got us right in line with the same goals that we had for the beginning salary. So that is somewhat of a separate discussion, but if I would ask that the commission is willing or wanting to proceed with this, that we also take into consideration to add into that motion that you adopt the new pay scale as well. That just adds those, as Jason said, delete that first step and then create steps 15 through 20. And that's really no cost to the county at this point because there's nobody in those scales. Those are for the more tenured employees that are 20-ish plus years at this point. But what that does, it also tells new employees that this is where I'm going to be making a year of 15, 16, 17. As our pay policy is now, every employee gets a step raise each year. With only 14 steps, basically says the employee is not going to get a raise after year 14, and that's not very attractive to those employees as well. So 20 years is a good time frame to move out there. You can never tell what's going to happen in a few years, definitely in 20, but at least it gives the employees a little bit more of a movement when the scale, as well as meeting with that top end from what the survey showed that we were lacking several dollars an hour behind at that top end. So if the commission is aware or willing to address that point too, I'd ask that the motion be amended a little bit, but if you make it to include the acceptance of the new pay pay scale.
And that's 20 steps, correct?
20 steps, correct.
Okay, well, Commissioners, I will make a motion, and I move to approve the attached Ellis County EMS recruitment and retention strategy, including provisions 1B and 2 to 4 of the Ellis County EMS recruitment and retention strategy, and include and adopt a new pay scale, including 20 steps, to begin August 8th, 2021.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Jason,
On the
thank
phone. Jason, get on the phone.
Yeah, he's probably watching.
you. Okay, the next is the 2020 budget review. Darren?
Just cop back up here. Well, the next step in the budget process follows up from 2 separate meetings that we had in the months of July. The commission met with the individual department heads in regards to their individual budgets and their proposals for the 2022 budget. And then come mid-June, the commission also met with all of the outside agencies in regards to their individual budget requests. And all the different changes, updates, personnel changes, retirements, all those have been made as well, as well as any suggestions that the commission may have made about any individual changes. And that's all within your overall spreadsheet tonight. So just to move down the agenda item, I guess the first thing to talk about is the outside agencies, and that's the first attachment that we have in here. And I just didn't know how the commission wanted to proceed. Last year, we just went through each line item individually, but that's up to the chair's decision on how you want to proceed with that.
Gentlemen, do you want to go through each line item?
I mean, there's no changes already, actually. I mean,
I have a question on just maybe a couple of them. I don't know what the other board members here have. So we can do it that way, or we can just go through line item by line item here.
I think go through the line item and we can say either accept it or change it or whatever, or leave it, you know.
Okay, we'll start here at the top. Western Kansas Child Advocacy wants $5,000. They were $4,500 in 2021.
I'm good with that.
Neil's good?
That's fine.
You're fine with it, Dean? Okay, we'll let that go. Casa of the High Plains wants $4,750. That's what they had in 2021. So
Fine.
I'm good with that too.
Yep.
Center for Life Experience, I was requesting $3,000. They were at $1,500 in 2021.
That one I have to stay out of if I excuse myself, okay?
I think change it, increase it, because I know originally I think we gave them $500 back when it first started, I think.
Could be.
Maybe,
Could be.
I think.
I think they requested 500, but the commission agreed to pay more.
I think that was correct, so yeah. I think that's when they first came, they asked for 5, and yeah. I think increase it to 3, that's a good agency.
I'm good with that too. Hayes Area Children's Center, $120,000, and they got $120,000 from us last year.
Leave it?
Yep.
I'd say leave it.
DSNWK, $240,000. They got $240,000 from us last year.
It's fine.
I've been thinking a bit about this one. I know as they made their presentation, he requested $240,000, but said it's really, they need more. I worked with DSNWK consumers for a number of years through the health department. I would kind of like to increase this to $250,000. But I don't know what you gentlemen think about that.
I mean, I know it's, Jerry always works with the bare minimum every year.
He does every year, and he's having a hard time getting people, and
He is. I mean, it goes back to that retention, just like Jason talked about when he was here. I know we've had that problem with Jerry too. I mean, if an extra 10,000 helps him out, if they do a lot for our community, I think they employ about 75 or so, I think it is, in Ellis County.
so,
Yeah.
are you okay with that, Dean?
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Okay, we'll increase that to $250,000. High Plains Mental Health, 280,000. They got 280,000 last year, and I think they're expecting 280,000.
Yep. That's what they had clear back in 2018 also, so.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that's fine.
Grow Hayes, they're requesting 200,000. Last year, we gave them 27,500. I think we're in a position to do better than 27,500. So, Commissioners, where are you at on this one?
Hang on, give me 1 second here. I'm looking further down the list. I had that on my deal earlier. Hang on here.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, I agree. I mean, they do a lot for our community. Well, not only our community, but for Ellis County.
Mm-hmm.
I think 200,000 is a rather large step.
It's a big step. I don't know, it could be justified.
I don't know. I guess I'd have to have more, and Doug's here this evening. Doug, do you mind coming up? And I know you told us, whatever that's been, a month or so ago, what your intentions are doing with extra money. I know you want to hire full-time staff. 2 people, right?
Yes. Doug Williams, Executive Director of Grow Hayes, and that is the intent, is to put on a couple more staff, one that would be focused exclusively on recruitment and retainment of existing business and recruitment of new business. And then we want to expand our current office manager into the role of more programs and events, so we can do more programs and events towards entrepreneurship and keeping people better informed as to what we're up to, and then that would facilitate the need for an additional administrative person of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And in looking at, when Jason was talking about competitiveness and that type of thing, when we look at other communities our size, that's typically what we see is that level of staffing. And so that's where we came back and asked for additional funding, obviously, trying to get back more into what the county used to give years ago, a little bit more than that. I mean, they gave a little bit less than that, but it's been 7 or 8, 9 years since that was the case. And trying to increase our programs and personnel so we can do a better job.
Now, I know as I spoke to you earlier this year, you did say you would like your subsidy tied to a mill.
We are looking for some level of sustainability. When you go out and hire people, and again, that goes back to Jason's comments. They look at that and they'd like to think that they're getting into a secure position. So that's why we thought that the $500,000 would be an appropriate way to do it. We may be too early to ask for that because we've had a fair amount of pushback from the city and the other entities. But they have indicated that they're willing to fund us in excess of, actually, in the case of the city of Hayes, they've budgeted at this point more than what a $500,000 would have generated. But they didn't feel it was a good time to add $500,000 to their budget request.
Did they tell you when a good time would be?
Well, and that's always the $1,000,000 question, isn't it?
It is.
And that was my response. If not now, when? I suspect we'll be back next year and trying to seek some sort of a sustainable mill levy arrangement of some sort. But no, to answer your question, Butch, they didn't say when would be a good time. I think there was some concern about school bond issues and that type of thing that may be forthcoming and interfering with that. But there's never a good time, as you all three know very well.
Sure.
That's what I've heard too from people that's called me, a $500,000. I didn't have anybody tell me they was in favor of a $500,000.
What were they in favor of?
I think back in the day, didn't we used to give 80,000 at the top?
Well, it was 125,000 years and years ago, and then it kind of began to escalate, and at one time it was 87.5 apiece, and it has, and then, several years ago, we didn't ask for anything when we kind of went through a reorganization. So we're trying to catch up and get back to where, basically what peer communities are doing.
Well, 200,000 might be a little steep. I'd be willing to go 150. Commissioner Neal, where are you at on this?
Like I say, with getting the community to grow, we can't unless we get houses, create more jobs. I'm good with that. I mean, that's a pretty good start from what was given last year, so.
Commissioner
Like I say,
Hazelhorse?
with Jason wanting people to come in, you know, and other places of business, we need people, so, I'm good with that.
I guess I was a little off from that. Doug probably won't like to hear what I have to say, but it's okay. I'm gonna tell him anyway. I was at 80,000. Biggest reason I was there, and this is the next line item coming up here, or I guess ain't the next one. It's Ellis County Historical Society. I don't know how much you guys.
We got to have a discussion about
I mean,
that.
that's gonna cost Ellis County sometime down the road. We don't know how much, but that could be that could be 400,000 to 500,000. It's gonna cost us, and I think that's right around the corner, possibly quicker than we think.
We'll just get it back from Doug.
I hate to give it to Doug one year and take it away the next. That's why I was kind of at 80,000. I thought 27 to 80 is a nice jump. And I know it's not where we used to be, but I just keep looking at that Ellis County Historical Society, and they just dropped did you guys get a packet too? You did? Okay. And I just looked through all of that, and that really concerned me after talking to some of them too, that we're gonna have to come up with eventually. Hopefully they get grants and different things to help that out, but somewhere down the line, the county may have to step up.
Yeah, we don't know when that would be, and that's a different issue.
No, and we don't.
So right now, I'm talking to Doug.
The only thing I might mention is that at 150, we can still do what we had hoped we could do. At 80, that would eliminate part of what we wanted to do. I understand the challenges you have up here. There's only so many dollars to go around, and you've got to make the best decisions you can. But I did want to point that out.
I'm still at 150.
So is Neil, so there you go.
Either that or, do we cut it back to 100 to keep everybody in peace, or,
Oh, I'm fine
I
either
mean,
way.
okay, well,
Fine either way. If you guys
I'm-
think that's where you want to be, that's fine.
I just want the community to grow.
I would like to give Doug a chance, so.
We'd like to think it's an investment, not an expense, and we would intend to absolutely prove that we're worthy of the investment.
Okay. Should we go 150, see what happens?
That's your call. But you guys got her.
Yeah. We'll try that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is the Ellis County Conservation District. They're requesting 72.6. That's what they had back in 2019. I think we should restore their funding.
I'm good with that. They do a lot of good stuff in our county.
Okay, then we come to the Ellis County Historical Society. To me, this is a hard one. I have mulled this over a lot. I don't want to throw good money after bad. And when they requested their budget, they said 72,000 isn't enough, but that's what we'll request. And if all that 72,000 is going to do is to help pay their bills along with money they take out of capital, that's a downward spiral.
They definitely need to come up with a plan, and I talked to Darren about that today too, but, I think we need to get their board back up here, or at least one of their spokesmen back here, and give us an idea on what they're gonna do. I think they got a great board put together now,
I do too.
and I think with some good planning, they'll get to where they wanna go. But I guess it'd be just nice to know what that plan is before you just hand them a check.
Well, we could, this money wouldn't go to them till next year. We could make it,
Exactly.
we could make it contingent upon us seeing a plan.
And I'd like to see what they have, and you might just contact them, Darren, if maybe their group would like to come one evening, if they have something laid out yet that they could present to us about what are they gonna do, whether it's a new building, whether it's renting a building, or whether it's whatever.
I can ask them to have one of their board members report once a month for the rest of the year on their progress. So that way the commission could feel more comfortable before we pay we pay their subsidies in two different amounts in January and July of each
If
year.
they got somebody doing grant writing, it'd be nice to know if somebody's doing that, you know, or what their funding source is looking like, how they're gonna try to put this over the top. I had a talk with one of their board members, and they got some great ideas out there. I don't know if they've put anything into effect yet. I don't think they have, but it'd be just nice to know where they're at and what they're doing and how they're gonna spend our tax dollars.
Absolutely, Dean. Because it's a situation, if it's going to fail, we need to know that sooner rather than later.
There was even talk of the Munger School out there possibly. Have you heard that?
I
Talk
have
of the Munger School out there.
Uh-huh.
Which that'd be a great facility, but,
Yep.
so anyway, but, and maybe they have a plan that we don't know about, so.
I did pass along the Munger School to them to see if that was still an option.
So I guess if you want to contact them, see if they'd like to come in the near future, to report to us what they're doing and give us monthly updates would be great.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to.
Okay.
Okay. The next one is the Ellis Alliance Association, $1,750. That's what they've been getting the last couple years. Okay. Then we go down here to the Hayes Senior Center, $51,200. And we got the NW Northwest Kansas Area Agency on Aging for $15,000. Any issues with that one?
We gave them last year, so
Yep, well, we gave them last year.
basically all of them are the same other than the Victoria Meal site.
Victoria Mill Site's requesting $29.60. Last year, we gave them $2,000.
You remember why? I don't have a question with that. You remember why it increased? Wasn't it, they were serving more individuals? Is that correct when they did that presentation?
That could have been.
When Mrs. Dryling came over, they'd actually requested 2,000. They're not asking for the 2960. However, when I met with the area aging council that we have, they are also reviewing the Ellis nutrition piece of this, as well as to what we were giving Ellis as compared to what Victoria's getting. So they tried to make the Mrs. Dryling's, I wouldn't say it's salary, but give her a little bit of boost in compared to what the same person in Ellis is getting, as well as the drivers that are out delivering the meals, give them a little bit of boost because they're using their personal vehicles in their own time and not getting reimbursed for any of it.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I think that's good.
it's a good program.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Okay, then the Ellis Nutrition Center at $16,335. That's what they got last year. DS&WK Transportation, $50,000.
Yes.
And the Humane Society, $2,600.
Yep.
Okay. The options, domestic violence, they requested $5,000. We gave them $2,500 last year. Good with that?
I'm good with that.
And the Heartland Community Foundation, $5,000. That's what we
Yes.
gave last year.
Yep.
Okay, that takes care of it.
So just to clarify, DS&WK increased from 240 to 250, and Grow Hayes increased from 27.5 up to 150. And going back to the Historical Society, stay with the same amount of the 72,000 that they had requested.
Yes, we'll stay with the same amount, but we do want to see their plan.
With the reports, okay.
Yeah.
Monthly updates, please.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on then with the agenda item, next talk about a little bit about the revenues. As you can see, this year's budget, we had budgeted about $2.195 million in sales tax revenue between the healthcare tax as well as the general tax. Now that we've seen a little bit of monthly history from last December, just did somewhat of an average between the different months as to project what we would be actually collecting in a year's time. And It's actually doing better than we anticipated. We actually knew that it was going to be more because the estimates that we had were off the 2017 figures from the last time we collected a countywide sales tax. But we did increase that to help pay for a little bit, help adjust the numbers for the increase to EMS. And we put that money in there to help capture more of those sales tax dollars within the budget to offset more of the EMS department off the ad valorem taxes of the county taxpayers. Even with the change from the health department is still 100% funded by their revenues from their grants, their insurance fees, as well as the sales tax. So no property tax goes to the health department still. And we still have a little bit of room in there. I don't want to budget everything that we're currently trending at. 2020 and 2021 for sales tax and revenues are a little bit of a off year. We know that we have a lot of excess spending out there due to the different government payments that the individuals are getting. So sales tax may still increase as the trend has been over the previous years. It may stay flat or it may fall down a bit. So I don't want to project 100% of what we're currently getting. But that's basically for the revenues, and there's a couple new charts that I'll keep the commissioners updated. You see on your agenda item. As we progress through these, we'll have more time to review what the sales tax are doing, and I'll share these with the commission every couple months so you can see where we're at with sales tax dollars in the county. Any questions on the revenues?
No, I mean, Darren, I just want to keep it to where we're building money back in the county, because we all know what it was like a few years ago where we were, worried about we have to raise taxes every time to keep everything going or cut services. And now that we've got money coming in, I want to build an account and not worry about how much of it we can spend. So it'd be good to keep building it up.
So I've done a little bit of looking into that in regards to our policy for the county and our budget policy. That's one thing that it's on my to-do list that needs to be updated and corrected. Currently, our budget policy says that we need to have an unfunded reserve balance every year of 25% of our operating budget. If we did that alone, our cash carryover alone would need to be about $6.2 million. Right now, it's only about a third of that. So getting that built back up would be a good plan. And when we went for the bond rating, or for the bond issue last year for the different public works projects that we'll be working on, that was also one of their suggestions, that we get that unreserved fund balance up. The second part of that is the budget policy also says that we're supposed to have 35% of our total budget in the budget stabilization account. If that was the case, we'd have about $8.6 million in that account. We currently fund it at $700,000. That is a huge gap. However, in speaking to a couple different county finance officers throughout the state, that's unrealistic and impractical. Technically, we should have about 30% total between our budget stabilization, our unreserved fund balance, and you can include your capital funds, our Fund 16, which is our equipment, and Fund 6, which are building. But you really don't want to double allocate those two other funds. So the 30% would be a good number that we get to. This budget that you see before you tonight, as well as the sales tax, helps increase that unreserved fund balance carryover each year, as well as the budget stabilization account is significantly increased, and I think it's almost doubled this year. So we will be pushing closer to that 30% number combined between our cash carryover and our budget stabilization account within this budget to get us back to where the S&P would see as a good financial standpoint for us to get a higher rating if we ever issue any more bonds in the future. But that budget policy does need updated, because if that was the case, we would have to have a $6.5 million carryover year. Plus, we'd have to increase our budget by $7 million just to have that line item within our budget stabilization account to do it, and that's not practical. But getting back to where we need to be at the 30%, we're going to be right at it. We're looking at in 2022 after this final number is over, our final budget is approved.
That's good.
The general fund itself still has the $24.4 million expenditures for 2022. That's still staying with that same line amount of increasing a $400,000 transfer to the new bridge fund and increasing the highway fund, road fund by $71,000. All other changes that the commission has made is included in that, and except for, I should say, health insurance. We have a wage and benefit meeting at the end of this month, and then I do need to build in the plans for what you approved with Jason tonight for EMS, and that will be in the final draft or final budget proposal you'll see next month. Solid waste, in regards to their enterprise fund, you see that they have a decrease in expenditures from last year of $113,000 less, so that is always good, and that will help to reverse the track of that department's fund by starting to build back that unreserved fund balance for them. The county fire department has an increase of $5,782 from last year, and that's mainly coming from trying to absorb some of the costs of the new fees associated with the CAD, the computer-aided dispatch and records management system. As the next paragraph says, there's some final numbers that need to be adjusted. The health insurance, we're meeting on July 28th. We're going to have a lunch meeting to see where the 2020 numbers from Blue Cross Blue Shield comes in and see if we can keep that within the same funding or the same amount that we have set this year. Just start reducing now our reserved fund balance in that healthcare fund, and you also will find a new spreadsheet within your packet that shows where we're at with that healthcare fund. We didn't really sell the commission on this last year, but we expected that we would be holding back about $600,000 a year. We all thought it was too good to be true, to see not only savings, but keeping money here in Ellis County. And we are right in line with that projection. If we would have stayed with the state plan, not only would we have been paying a couple $100,000 more in insurance premiums each year, but all that money, 100%, would be staying with the state. Now we're paying less premiums than what the state would have been required, as well as the excess money that the claims aren't being paid out as is staying in our Ellis County bank account. So we're gaining interest on that as well, even though the interest rates are next to nothing at this point. But those hopefully will rebound as well. Is there anything else on the expenditure side that you have a question about before I move on?
I have no questions. Commissioner Neal?
Okay. The next part of the agenda is another item that the commission asked to be revisited and do some little bit of research on, and that was to see if the county can offer a matching retirement contribution to employees' retirement accounts. We did some research. I had our human resources generalist contact our representative with Capers 457. We can do this. We reached out to 15 other counties. There's only one other county that does offer this that responded back to us, and it is that same county that Jason was referring to a little bit that stole his one employee from us. So we would have to make a little bit of changes. If we do a 457 account, there's a lot more hoops and different things that we'd have to bypass, and it would make it more difficult to manage and proceed with. However, if employees would want to take part of this, we would just basically start a new 401A program, transfer their old 457, have two different accounts. There's multiple ways to do it, but it's cleaner, and it would work better for the employees as well as the payroll side of things to do a 401A program. And Commissioner Younger asked several months ago how much that would take, depending on what levels of contributions, and if we would to match it, how much it would cost. And without going through a big lengthy discussion on how I got to the 1%, 2%, and 3% numbers, it was just basically an average from our 20 different steps in our pay grade to find out that roughly $15 equals 1% of a county employee's paycheck per paycheck. So we just did, instead of doing a 1% figure, which in our payroll system is hard to figure each month. You know, you have 180 employees that could potentially be doing this 26 times a year, and that number may have to change every paid period. So we came back with the idea of that $15, $30, and $45 allotments would basically equal 1%, 2%, and 3%. That could be a set figure, and we could use those figures if you wanted to do up to 3, or if the commission even wants to do this at all. But the numbers that are included in this are with the assumptions that every single employee would do this, and it would range between 1% and 3%. So if 1% would be 70,000, 2% would roughly be 140, 3 would be about $210,000. That's, like I say, assuming every employee would do it. That is not built into the budget next year, so those are the numbers, and if the commission would like to proceed with it, we can start working on it, but we would have to change the budget to include those line items.
Are you getting good feedback from the employees regarding this proposal?
One of the commissioners asked me that today in our phone call, and I still haven't thought of the word of what the employees, the wage and benefit committee, as well as the executive team, how their feelings were. I think it's just surprised, unexpected. I've heard a lot of good things. I've not heard one negative thing. Some of the comments I've heard is that they appreciate the commission, that they also see that there's an investment in the employee's future in Ellis County and not just the initial pay.
Would you anticipate most employees taking advantage of this?
You know, at first thought, I didn't know. You know, we always have this conversation when we start to get these newer employees in here, especially the younger generations. The only thing they're looking at is that paycheck and the dollar amount. The county that we responded back to our survey as to what they're doing, I believe they said they had 99% participation at some level. So that would lead me to believe that we may have bigger turnout on this than what could be anticipated. And I think if you put a dollar amount, not a percentage, it says $15. And one of the things the Wage and Benefit Committee said that if we just set a set dollar amount, you can relate it to something.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, oh, you know, going to Arby's, one meal for themselves would cost them $15.
Mm-hmm.
But when you try to sell that to a new employee, you say 1%, they really can't put that number as to what it could relate to. So I think it will. I know the employees, from the reactions that I've got in the comments, are positive.
Well, this does get down to what we've been talking about earlier. It's recruitment and retention. It's investment in our employees. Commissioner Younger, this was your issue. Do you have any comments?
Like I say, I just want the community to grow and keep our people here, not leave. And I like the idea. I just hope our employees take advantage of it, and I'm 100% for it.
Commissioner Hazelhorst.
I mean, I think it's a good idea. I mean, I've been involved in them different places I've worked over the years. It's, you know, it's different when you're talking taxpayer money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're talking a private entity, a private company, that's a whole different thing. You talk taxpayer dollars, you know, 210,000. Where's that coming from? You got a plan? And granted, it may not be that much.
I mean, it is to the common citizen, and you look at a $210,000 price tag for added employee benefits. This year, and it's coming up here in a little bit, we have an opportunity to make, not make any extra money, but, you know, the sales tax definitely helped it. The sales tax wouldn't pay for any of this because it's all the departments, whereas the healthcare tax is dedicated to just EMS and the health department, and the general tax is paying for the bond. But valuations, as you know, are going up next year, and they're ranging from several percent up to, I believe Lisa said, 4 to 5%. So the mill levy will go up, as well as, you know, with the goal of keeping the mill levy the same. with the valuations going up and oil rebounding, I believe it's over $72 a barrel now. The revenues coming in will be increased for next year as well. So there will be the funding in there for that.
Well, I would like to see us implement this, but I would only be in favor of this going up to a maximum of 2%, not 3%. I don't, you start getting 3%, that's getting more costly. 2% wouldn't be as costly. Some employees might not want to do 2%, but would want 1%. So,
Well, either way, it's up to the employee, correct, how much they want to contribute, whether it's one or
but it's
two.
up to us as how much we will match.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, and so I wouldn't want to go past 2%. I don't know how you feel about that, Commissioner Hazelworth.
I mean, I don't know, do we have a true number for 2%? I mean, just a rough number?
It'd roughly be about 140,000 if 100% of the employees did 2%. And that's probably high because you're not going to have.
And this is
all
a
of them do it.
working document. If we put it in together next year and we see it's working well, we can increase it another percent, right, Bill, if we want to go to 3%? Is that legal? Yeah. Yeah. I'd be in favor of starting out at 2, and then let's see how much participation we get from employees. If we get good participation, we can always up it another percent.
Okay.
This would,
I'm for that, for the
Okay.
2%, because, and not only that, that keeps our employees, the morale up. Word
Let's
gets
just
around on
see
the-
how much participation we get, and if we get
Sure.
great participation, we know that they're liking it, and we can always up it.
so I'm hearing an employee challenge to sign up
That's
for your
right, this is an
retirement.
employee challenge. Are you employees listening out there? Jason's smiling, Mason's good, Vern's good, Scott's not sure. Oh, he's good, okay, he's good.
I know, it's taxpayer dollars, but it's going to good employees, good staff.
It
You see how this is all put together every month. Everybody's doing an excellent job, so.
There will have to be some follow-up discussion with this. We might bring in Joe Hildebrand with Capers to meet the commission and talk about the process. There will most likely be a personnel policy change to include the contributions, the amounts, so that way the employees know they don't have to. They can choose the $15 or the $30, but just so that they know that even if they contribute 100, they're only going to get the $30 matching. So there'll be some clarification, and we'll have some open enrollment stuff with that later this year when we do our regular health insurance.
And we're gonna have, substantial savings with that fleet program leasing our vehicles. We're gonna have substantial savings there, over $1 million.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be good also.
That's an interesting point. And I know I kind of brought this up in the past, but that is it's one of the items here tonight, but you see the new capital plan. And that our capital decrease by, was it $1.4 million by doing that? That's about as accurate number as I could get, because some of the numbers were reduced, but some of the numbers were still left in there for, I believe, like Mason's office. They removed the truck out of there, but we put a copy machine into it, I believe. So that it's pretty close to that $1.4 million. And then next year, within the budget that's included here, we're placing those 30 vehicles, and the estimated cost is around $210,000, but the revenue from selling the vehicles, but the projected lease payments are about $245,000, so it's really only about a $35,000 expense to buy 30 brand-new vehicles. And then on the other side of that too, the hail damage. We still got two more. I got sent to me two more estimates today for the damage, and from what Enterprises, we're working with Enterprise on this as well, and it seems to be that it's almost going to be a fortunate circumstance that it's from the estimated values that we're going to get selling these vehicles. If we just take the hail claim and not fix the vehicle, we may actually end up with more money out of these used vehicles to begin with anyway. I know the sheriff's office had two vehicles that it's going to be that way, and it'll look like there may be 2 or 3. It's only several $1,000s, but a vehicle, but it's never a good thing to have 37 vehicles hailed out, but just kind of complicating the process and moving the numbers around a little bit to show what that's going to do. But that capital plan has definitely seen a significant improvement over the next couple of years.
Okay.
I guess that was the next item on there, was the capital plan.
Mhm.
The next thing to talk about is the revenue neutral rate. As the commission is aware, and this is Bobby's favorite subject, is Senate Bill 13, the Truth in Taxation Bill, which removed or repealed the tax lid and makes us follow a different procedure on how we adopt the budget based on where your revenue neutral rate is. Bobby got that at the beginning of June and turned that over to us, and we will most likely exceed that revenue neutral rate. What that means is there's a mathematical formula that takes this year's property taxes compared to last year's property taxes, this year's valuations, and it's not necessarily a complicated formula, but it gives you a new mill levy rate that you have to have a hearing as well as a commission-approved resolution that you will project to exceed that revenue neutral rate. With the $400,000 for the bridge fund alone, we would exceed that revenue neutral rate next year. So that forces us to have the commission's decision for, Bobby would need a written response from me that we would exceed that revenue neutral rate. It's looking to be that exact same thing for the fire district, just because the valuations oil valuations are a lot bigger percentage of that budget. But I would ask that the commission give me approval tonight to write Bobby a nice letter saying that we plan to exceed that revenue neutral rate and have a hearing here in about a month.
Well, I'm in favor of it. I guess we have to.
The bad thing is even if we weren't planning on exceeding it and something were to change and some type of emergency or something came up, there is absolutely nothing we can do. We are stuck at that figure, and our budget would be reduced. If we hold the hearing and the final valuations come in, the final state documents are done, and we don't need to exceed it, we don't have to, because our budget would be set at what number we projected underneath that R&R rate. So it's just a different process. It's just to bring the public more informed as to what we're doing. Within a recent survey that we did with the different county administrators along the state, we had 16 counties, and 14 out of the 16 are all producing budget hearings, and they all are planning to exceed the revenue neutral rate. And it's I believe 2 that are mainly not going to because if you remember, is it the Keystone, not the Keystone Pipe Project, it's down in Butler County going north. Those tax abatements are coming off their tax rolls, so their revenues are going up enough that it's offsetting, so they're actually not having to have a hearing. But most every other county, their reason for having to exceed that revenue neutral rate is just to be able to keep up with their personnel expenses, and being able to make sure they're paying their employees. So very similar to our position here. And the final sentence there is we are trying to accomplish everything we've been talking about here in the last few minutes to keep our mill levy roughly the same rate as it is this year. But until we get all the final budget numbers into the state form with all these final changes with the health department, or not, with the EMS department, the health insurance, get all those final budget numbers into the state forms, I'll be able to better figure out and explain to the commission where we're at on the overall budget. So,
Okay.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a plan, Darren.
okay.
Okay, that takes care of the budget, correct? Okay, we'll move on to the county administrator report.
I just had a request from Vern. I don't know if he wants to come up and speak to it, but we do have one final change order for the environmental services building out there. There's a couple different projects. Do you want to speak? Couple different projects that they ended up doing out there. The total was right at around $2,100. if they put an electric gate out there like Public Works has, they ran some conduit for that. A couple extra light switches, a ventilation fan for above their incubator in their lab. That was the main pieces out there, but we're not going to do another PO or anything for that. Vern said that since that amount is somewhat minimal, he'll just be able to take that out of his operating fund for the year. But that is done. We stopped out there on Friday, and I didn't, but I watched them put up their sign with their new hours and everything, and took a tour. The Stellina scale should be out there on Wednesday, taking the old scale from the old building, and they're operational now on the one scale in their new building, and they project that to be done by Friday. And when they reopen on Monday, we'll have two-way traffic, and then environmental will be out there as well in their new facility. So they're packing and moving. The other thing I have is, I forgot to mention when we visited today, if any of the commissioners are interested, got an invitation to the annual Tiger auction for some banquet tickets. If you want to attend, I guess you just let me know, and I can get you the paperwork for it. That is all I have.
Okay. County Commission reports. Commissioner Hazelworth?
Sorry, I have nothing.
Okay. Commissioner Neal?
KAC meeting in Topeka next
Harvest
week.
is over for some of us, so it went good. That's all I
Okay.
have.
And I guess I can report fishing is still good, so
Good.
we'll give it a go again Thursday.
Okay.
Okay, and with that being said, the meeting will adjourn at 6:21.